Hello, welcome to Tech in 10. What we're going to do here today is hopefully spend 10 minutes on some practical advice. And the topic for today is the power of version control with um, and co-authoring in document management. So what we're going to do here is help you understand how to maximize efficiency using version control and co-authoring, and get some best practices to take advantage of these modern methods of document management. So let's get started. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A button as we go. But first off, let's just touch on what the differences are between a traditional and modern document management system. So a traditional document management system usually involves handling documents in a systematic manner, and manually organizing and finding those files and to be able to retrieve them and use them. So whilst this is great if you're very organized, when you have new people start, it can also be a learning curve to understand where things are. More modern documentation system or method, on the other hand, helps simplify the tasks of creating and controlling those files as well as accessing them. Quite often you can use search more often, and you'll be able to find the information you need. Search extending beyond just the file names now, but also into documents to help you find them in a more flexible manner. So for new team members, it's not about having a knowledge of where things are. It's also just about searching for them and using that method to work differently. So version control and co-authoring are two of the most used and important features of modern document management. So we're going to touch on those next. Version control is very helpful when you're working on a document with other people. You can see here from the image, you can see lots of modifications that are made on a file. It's very important when you're working collaboratively to understand what's changed in a document and who by and when. So what this will do is it will keep track of changes to a document and ensure that the latest version is available, but the older versions can be accessed as they were, and be retrieved and compared if need be. So this is important because it ensures the team can make sure they're working on the current document. If you're emailing documents around, you need to verify which one's the latest, and the version control of adding V1, V2, and dates to the end of files isn't really document management. The other thing is the version history keeps track of changes and approvals made with the document with timestamps. So it can help with going back and looking at the document, but also accountability as to what's happened with it. Data security is also important. So it controls where documents are located and how they're shared between people. So ideally, you're not sending those via email because that can be quite a high security risk now because you lose control of that data. This will also control where information is stored, and it assists in protecting the data. So if you know the data is always in one place and it's not in email or other places, you can protect that easier because you know where that is. One of the other considerations with version history is that if you, and I've done this before, is if you select all of the document and accidentally delete it and then save it, you have to go back to backup, whereas this allows you to self-service and restore those files if you have any errors that come along the way. This video here is going to demonstrate a little bit about how you can use version control within SharePoint. So that's the back-end storage for things. And you can see here it's got a history with timestamping of what sort of happened with the document. And when you click on the document, it shows you the yellow bar at the top, and allows you just to restore that file with a single click if you need to. So that's how you would do that. See here, you can see who's modified the file and you can see what they've been working on. So that's quite helpful. You can also do version control and editing of documents in Teams. So to do the same process is you click up here and then use version history, and that will demonstrate a similar history level on the right-hand side, but it allows you to preview the document in one place here. So you can choose to restore it like the previous one, or in this case, you can save a copy if you want to compare it or save that elsewhere. Although it's better to try and keep it as one document. Within the apps themselves, so Excel, Word, and other devices, you can do it via the version control at the top, and it pops out in the right-hand pane here to have a similar sort of area. So you can even see here if restores are completed on a document, it gives you full history and accountability for what has happened with that document. As you can see in the video here, you can also side by side if you want to try and find any changes or any major differences. So it's very helpful to be able to understand what's changing within the document. Now, co-authoring is an amazing technology that allows you to work on a document together. We have got a little YouTube video here that we're going to play because it explains it quite well. So play there.
After you've shared a file in Office, co-author in real time and see changes as they're made. As you collaborate, it's simple to see who else is in the document, including where they're actively working. This is similar in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint on your PC, Mac, or in the web. A presence indicator shows where someone is making changes. You'll see these changes right as they're making them. You can also add comments and @mention others to get input right where you want. Get the most out of collaboration in Microsoft 365 with co-authoring.
So that's a great practical explanation of what co-authoring is and how it works. So if you are working on a document with multiple people, and it can also extend to guest contributors, it doesn't provide you the same list of names unless they're using the system in a specific way as a guest user, but it can still allow you to see what they're working on. So it does allow more efficiency and productivity, and it still maintains that version control without having to send the file between parties, is that everybody can go to the document and work on it together. So definitely helps to ensure projects and documents are completed in a controlled fashion. Now on to best practices. So version control and co-authoring allow you to minimize the number of copies of data. So each time you make a copy of something, it becomes its own piece of data. It's no longer that original document. So if you want to know where that document is and what the current version is, the best practice is to put it into your OneDrive or SharePoint and enable the autosave. And that's the little slider up the top in most of the Microsoft Office apps. This will enable version control. It'll allow automatic saving. It will allow co-authoring, and it allows you to use the Microsoft 365 tools to communicate in the document and tag comments as it was noted there. So it means that if your computer crashed, you should be saving each keystroke, which means it minimizes how much impact you may have if you have an event like that happen as well. Now, that's all we have to present for today. So if we have any questions, we will go to the Q&A button and have a look and see what we have here. So Q&A. Okay, so can team members co-author a document when accessing it through different platforms, such as the Word app or SharePoint? So yeah, you can use co-authoring to access a document in different ways. So you've obviously got the web apps that you have with Microsoft. You've got the desktop installed apps, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, as that video mentioned, and that allows you to collaborate in real time as you need to. Typically, when you're working with a guest collaborator, you will send them a link, they'll open it, and they'll be using the web version, and that will show you where they're working as well, but it will only say guest contributor generally. So how does version control handle conflicts when multiple people are making changes at the same time? So the version control doesn't lead, generally manages it by using co-authoring. So co-authoring will lead you to be editing the document live, which will mitigate any conflicts that happen because the document is being edited at the same time and you can see what's happening in real time. So that will minimize changes and you're not saving different copies of the document. So otherwise, you can review conflicts and changes if there is something not right with the system or not right with OneDrive. Usually, it'll ask you whether you want to merge or create a copy of a document so that you don't lose any changes that are made. And are there any limitations to co-authoring with external collaborators? So when you're working with external collaborators, you can co-author documents. There are some limitations and restricted functionality, and one example of which is you don't see that person's name. So if you send the link to a few people, you're not necessarily going to see who is editing at what point. So that's one consideration when co-authoring outside of Microsoft 365 or outside of your organization. So just keep that in mind when you're working with external people on that front. Okay, I think that's all the questions that we had on this. So thank you for joining. Hopefully that was a useful introduction to co-authoring and version control within the Microsoft 365 platform. If you have any questions, please reach out. Happy to address any more. Otherwise, see you next time.